Let me start by saying this. I never thought my honeymoon would turn into a revenge plot worthy of a Netflix thriller. But here we are, or rather, here I am, sitting in a tiny Kyoto hostel room with nothing but my thoughts, a half-dead phone, and a growing list of ideas for how to make Ethan regret leaving me behind. My name's Lila Bennett, and up until last week, I was just another girl trying to keep her marriage together. Ethan Parker, my husband, is one of those guys who seems perfect on paper. Tall, good-looking, successful in his tech job, and obsessed with all things Japan. He's been dreaming about visiting Tokyo since he watched Spirited Away as a kid. So when it came time to plan our honeymoon, guess where we ended up? Spoiler alert. Not Paris or Bali like I'd hoped. Nope, straight to the land of vending machines that sell underwear and toilets that talk back to you. But Ethan didn't want to go alone. Oh no, he had to bring his college buddies along. Derek, Tyler, and Zach. These guys have been inseparable since freshman year, bonding over video games, beer pong, and apparently making fun of their significant others. From the moment they joined us at the airport, I could tell this trip wasn't going to be about us. It was about them. And honestly, I should have seen the writing on the wall way before now. Okay, let me take you back a little further. Before Japan, there were signs, tiny red flags that I ignored because, well, love makes you stupid sometimes. Like how Ethan always laughed at Derek's jokes, even when they were at my expense. Or how Tyler once called my art cute, in a tone that made it sound like an insult. And don't get me started on Zach, who somehow managed to mansplain Japanese culture to me during dinner one night, even though I'd done more research than all of them combined. Our relationship wasn't always like this. When Ethan and I first met, it felt like fate. We bonded over mutual friends at a party, stayed up talking until sunrise, and fell into this whirlwind romance that everyone said looked picture perfect. Fast forward 2 years, and suddenly we're standing in front of 100 guests saying I do, mostly because our parents wouldn't stop nagging us about settling down. Don't get me wrong, I love Ethan. At least, I thought I did. But looking back, maybe rushing into marriage was a mistake. The pre-trip meetups were the real wake-up call. Every time Ethan brought up Japan, his eyes lit up, but only if he was talking to his friends. When I tried to join the conversation, I got brushed off like I was asking dumb questions. One time, I suggested visiting Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park, and Zach actually rolled his eyes. That sounds boring, he said. We're here for fun, not history class. Fun for who exactly? Definitely not me. Fast forward to touchdown in Tokyo, and everything felt surreal. The city was alive, neon lights flashing, trains whizzing by, people everywhere speaking a language I barely understood. For a second, I forgot about all the tension bubbling under the surface. Maybe this trip would work out after all, I told myself. Maybe Ethan would finally see how hard I was trying. Wrong. Day one set the tone pretty quickly. While Ethan and his friends sprinted ahead to check out some anime store in Akihabara, I lagged behind, clutching my translation app like it was a lifeline. Ordering food became its own mini-nightmare. At lunch, I accidentally ordered something spicy enough to make my nose run, and instead of helping me, Ethan snapped a picture and sent it to his group chat with the caption, Lila versus Wasabi LOL. His friends replied with laughing emojis, and I forced a smile while secretly wanting to throw my chopsticks across the table. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, not just from jet lag but from feeling invisible. Every time I spoke, it was like no one heard me. When I asked if we could slow down so I could catch my breath, Ethan sighed and muttered, You're overthinking again, Lil. Overthinking. Really? All I wanted was to feel included, but clearly, that wasn't happening anytime soon. If you've ever climbed Mount Fuji, you know it's not exactly a walk in the park. But Ethan insisted we do it anyway, claiming it was the ultimate experience. Translation, he wanted bragging rights. I tried to protest, pointing out that hiking wasn't really my thing and that I'd probably slow everyone down. Naturally, Ethan dismissed my concerns. You'll be fine, he said. Just keep up. Spoiler alert, I wasn't fine. The climb was brutal, steep trails, freezing temperatures, and oxygen levels that made me question every life choice leading up to this moment. By the time we reached the halfway point, I was gasping for air and wishing I'd stayed home. Meanwhile, Ethan and his friends breezed past me like mountain goats, barely breaking a sweat. And then came Derek, strolling back down the trail with a smug grin. "Hey, slowpoke," he teased. "You might want to pick up the pace, unless you want to get left behind." Left behind? Seriously? I clenched my fists and kept moving, determined not to give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. The betrayal happened in Kyoto, a city known for its serene temples and peaceful gardens. Too bad my experience there was anything but serene. After spending hours wandering around while Ethan and his crew explored shrines without me, I decided to buy souvenirs for my family. You know, to distract myself from the fact that I felt like an outsider in my own honeymoon. Big mistake. When I finally caught up to the group at the train station, they were already waiting impatiently. "What took you so long?" Ethan snapped, glaring at me like it was my fault the shopkeeper couldn't speak English. Then came the bombshell. As the train pulled into the station, Ethan turned to me and said, "Look, Lil, maybe it's better if we leave you here tonight. You can figure things out and meet us tomorrow in Osaka." My jaw dropped. "Wait, what?" "You heard me," he replied coldly. "We'll send someone back for you later." Before I could respond, they boarded the train, leaving me stranded on the platform with nothing but my backpack and a sinking feeling in my stomach. I won't lie, it took everything in me not to break down right there. Stranded in a foreign country, miles away from anyone who cared about me, I felt completely and utterly abandoned. But somewhere deep inside, a spark of anger ignited. How dare they treat me like this? How dare Ethan, the man I married, just leave me behind like I was disposable? After wandering aimlessly for what felt like hours, I found a cheap hostel and checked in. That night, I cried myself to sleep, but when I woke up the next morning, something had shifted. Maybe it was exhaustion, or maybe it was sheer determination, but I realized something important. This wasn't the end of my story. If Ethan and his friends thought they could discard me like trash, they were dead wrong. I grabbed my journal and started brainstorming ways to make them pay. Not violently, of course, but creatively. Revenge is best served cold, right? Little did they know, their worst nightmare was just getting started. The universe works in mysterious ways, because the very next day, I met two people who would change everything. Maya and Ryan. Maya was a free-spirited backpacker from California with sun-bleached hair and a contagious laugh. Ryan was a tech-savvy entrepreneur from New York who looked like he belonged in a startup commercial. Both were staying at the same hostel, and both immediately sensed that something was off with me. "Rough trip?" Maya asked over breakfast, eyeing my disheveled appearance. "You could say that," I muttered, shoving a piece of toast into my mouth. Long story short, I spilled the whole sordid tale, from Ethan's dismissive attitude to being ditched in Kyoto. To my surprise, neither of them judged me. Instead, they listened intently, nodding sympathetically as I ranted. When I finished, Maya leaned back in her chair and grinned. "Girl, you need to hit him where it hurts." "Let me help you," Ryan chimed in, offering practical advice. "And if you need tech support, I've got your back. Trust me, these guys are about to learn why you don't mess with a woman scorned." For the first time in days, I smiled, not because I was happy, but because I finally had a plan. The next few days were transformative in ways I never expected. With Maya by my side, I started exploring Kyoto like it was my own personal playground. Together, we visited Fushimi Inari Shrine, where thousands of red torii gates stretched endlessly into the forest. Climbing through those gates felt symbolic, like I was stepping away from the old me and embracing a new version of myself. Maya encouraged me to document everything on social media. "People love a good comeback story," she said with a wink. So I did. I posted photos of me posing confidently in front of iconic landmarks, captioning them with clever jabs at Ethan and his friends. One post showed me sipping matcha tea under a cherry blossom tree with the caption, "Living my best life while others play catch-up cherry blossom #solo travel goals." To my surprise, the post blew up. Strangers flooded my comment section with messages of support, calling me brave and inspiring. Some even shared their own stories of being mistreated by partners or friends. It was overwhelming, but in a good way. For the first time, I realized that my pain wasn't just mine. It resonated with so many others. And honestly, that gave me strength. But don't get me wrong, I wasn't done with Ethan yet. Not even close. Ryan proved to be an invaluable ally when it came to tracking down Ethan and his crew. Using his tech skills, he hacked into Derek's email account, Don't ask how, he refused to explain, and found their itinerary for Osaka. Apparently, they plan to spend the next 2 days stuffing their faces with takoyaki and hitting up karaoke bars. Gross. Armed with this intel, I devised a plan to sabotage their trip. First order of business: canceling their hotel reservations. Ryan set up a fake booking confirmation email claiming their rooms had been double booked due to a system error. To add insult to injury, I made sure the fake email included a note about how refunds would take 4 to 6 weeks to process. Let's see how they handle sleeping on park benches, I thought smugly. Meanwhile, Maya and I treated ourselves to luxury accommodations at a traditional ryokan, a serene and complete with futon beds, tatami mats, and private hot springs. As I soaked in the steaming water, sipping sake and staring at the moonlit garden outside, I couldn't help but laugh. If Ethan could see me now, he'd probably have a heart attack. Chaos erupted the moment Ethan and his friends arrived in Osaka. They showed up at their hotel only to discover that their rooms didn't exist. And worse, the staff didn't speak English well enough to explain what had happened. According to Ryan, who'd hacked into the hotel's security cameras, again, don't ask, they spent over an hour arguing with the receptionist before storming out in frustration. I celebrated by posting a glamorous photo of myself lounging in my ryokan robe, holding a tray of delicate Japanese desserts. The caption read, "While some people are losing their minds over lost reservations, I'm living in luxury. Karma's a beautiful thing, sparkles, #winning. Ethan must have seen the post because my phone buzzed nonstop with missed calls and angry texts. Ignoring him felt amazing. For once, I held all the power, and I wasn't letting go anytime soon. With each passing day, my revenge campaign grew bolder. Next on the list, Zach's wallet. He bragged endlessly during dinner one night about carrying large amounts of cash because cards aren't reliable abroad. Oh, sweet summer child. Using Maya's charm and my newfound confidence, I befriended a local street performer near Namba Parks, a massive shopping complex in Osaka. After slipping him a generous tip, I asked if he'd be willing to accidentally bump into Zach later that evening. Long story short, Zach ended up losing his wallet, and with it, all his precious yen. When he posted about the incident on Instagram, claiming someone had stolen it, I replied with a simple comment. Careful what you flaunt. It might come back to bite you, winking face. Tyler became my next target. Thanks to Ryan's hacking prowess, I gained access to his Facebook account and sent an embarrassing message to his boss, detailing a wild night out involving too much sake and karaoke renditions of Bohemian Rhapsody. By morning, Tyler's workplace group chat was buzzing with screenshots of the exchange. As for Derek, well, let's just say his reputation took a hit after I anonymously reported him to the U.S. Embassy for allegedly smuggling counterfeit goods. Sure, it was a stretch, but watching him panic over a random call from embassy officials was worth every second. By the end of the week, Ethan and his friends were unraveling, and I hadn't even reached the main event yet. Nara was supposed to be the highlight of their trip, a chance to feed deer and snap adorable photos for social media. But thanks to Maya's connections, I arranged for a team of fake tour guides to intercept them at the train station. Dressed in authentic kimonos and armed with laminated maps, these actors led Ethan and his friends on a wild goose chase across the city. From fake temples to non-existent noodle shops, they dragged them around for hours until frustration boiled over. According to Ryan, who'd planted himself nearby to record the chaos, Ethan screamed something along the lines of, "Why does everything keep going wrong?" I wish I could have seen his face in person. By the time they finally escaped Nara, Ethan was visibly cracking under the pressure. His usually calm demeanor had given way to frantic phone calls and desperate voicemails begging me to stop whatever I was doing. At first, I ignored him, but then curiosity got the better of me. Late one night, I listened to his latest message. His voice trembled as he pleaded, "Lila, please. I know I messed up, okay? I didn't mean to hurt you. Can we talk about this?" For a split second, guilt tugged at my chest. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe revenge wasn't the answer after all. But then I remembered standing alone on that Kyoto train platform, clutching my backpack like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. No. Ethan needed to understand the weight of what he'd done, not just to me, but to our marriage. My piece de resistance came in Tokyo, where Ethan and his friends regrouped for one last hurrah before flying home. Knowing they planned to visit Tokyo Tower, I positioned myself strategically near the observation deck, ready to deliver the final blow. When Ethan spotted me, his eyes widened in shock. "Lila, what are you doing here?" Before he could finish, I hit record on my phone and launched into a scathing monologue. "You abandoned me in Kyoto, Ethan. You treated me like I was nothing more than a burden. Well, guess what? I'm not your problem anymore." I uploaded the video to TikTok, where it went viral within hours. Comments poured in, praising me for standing up to toxic behavior. Even Ethan's coworkers chimed in, calling him out for his hypocrisy. The fallout was immediate. Ethan tried to salvage his image by issuing public apologies, but no one bought it. Meanwhile, I returned to Seattle stronger, wiser, and ready to start fresh. When I got back to Seattle, I didn't waste any time. The first thing I did was call my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Claire who specialized in divorce cases. She listened patiently as I recounted everything that had happened, from Ethan leaving me stranded in Kyoto to the viral TikTok video that exposed his behavior to the world. "You've got grounds for irreconcilable differences," she said, flipping through her notes. "And if you want to push for spousal support, we can argue emotional neglect." I shook my head firmly. "No support. I don't want anything from him except my freedom." Filing for divorce felt like taking off a backpack full of rocks. It wasn't easy. There were moments when guilt crept in, whispering that maybe I was overreacting, but I reminded myself of how far I'd come. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my life. While the legal process dragged on, I threw myself into work and self-care. My graphic design business picked up new clients thanks to the exposure I'd gained online, and I started collaborating with travel brands eager to feature my Japan adventure. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself, not because of what I'd survived, but because of how I'd grown. Meanwhile, Ethan's life spiraled out of control. His coworkers mocked him relentlessly after seeing my TikTok video, and rumors spread faster than wildfire. Someone even created a meme of him looking sheepish during one of his voicemails captioned, "What do you mean you didn't mean to hurt me?" Derek, Tyler, and Zach fared no better. Derek's counterfeit goods scandal turned out to have real consequences. He accidentally flagged himself for customs checks at the airport upon returning to the U.S., resulting in an embarrassing interrogation. Tyler's karaoke debacle cost him a promotion at work, while Zach spent weeks trying to recover his lost wallet without success. As satisfying as their downfall was, watching them flounder made me realize something important. Revenge isn't forever. It doesn't fill the void left by betrayal or fix the broken pieces inside you. What truly matters is moving forward and making sure you never let anyone treat you like that again. Maya and Ryan stayed in touch long after our time in Japan ended. They became more than just allies, they became family. Maya convinced me to join her on a road trip along California's Pacific Coast Highway, where we bonded over late-night conversations and endless cups of coffee. Ryan, ever the tech wizard, helped me launch a travel blog called Lila Abroad, chronicling my solo adventures around the globe. Within months, it gained traction, earning me sponsorships and invitations to speak at conferences. People loved hearing about my journey, from being abandoned in Kyoto to building a life on my own terms. Together, these two reminded me that friendship can be just as powerful as love, if not more so. The day the divorce papers arrived, I signed them without hesitation. Ethan sent a handwritten letter along with a signature, apologizing profusely and asking if we could talk things out. I considered ignoring it, but then decided against it. Instead, I wrote him a short note. "Ethan, thank you for teaching me who I am and who I refuse to be. I wish you nothing but peace moving forward, but know this, I will never regret standing up for myself. Take care. Lila." It wasn't forgiveness, it was closure. And sometimes, that's all you need to move on. With the divorce finalized, I packed my bags once again, but this time for Europe. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, the possibilities felt endless. Each destination brought its own lessons, its own joys, and its own challenges. In Paris, I danced under the Eiffel Tower with strangers I'd met at a cafe. In Rome, I ate gelato until my stomach hurt and laughed harder than I had in years. And in Barcelona, I climbed Park Güell and watched the sunset paint the city gold, feeling utterly, blissfully free. Every step of the way, I carried Japan with me, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that I could survive anything. Looking back, I realize now that abandonment wasn't the worst part of my honeymoon, it was the wake-up call I needed. Before Japan, I spent so much energy trying to please Ethan, bending myself into shapes that didn't fit just to keep him happy. But being left behind forced me to confront the truth. I deserved better. Revenge may have been cathartic, but it wasn't what healed me. What healed me was learning to stand on my own 2 feet, to trust myself, value myself, and fight for myself. That's the lesson I'll carry with me forever. Back in Seattle, my life looks completely different. I bought a cozy studio apartment downtown, decorated it with art inspired by my travels, and filled it with plants that remind me of Kyoto's bamboo groves. My travel blog continues to grow, connecting me with people all over the world who share my passion for adventure. And romance? Well, let's just say I'm not rushing into anything anytime soon. Right now, I'm perfectly content exploring the world, and myself, one country at a time. The final chapter of the story takes place on a cliff overlooking Santorini, Greece. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. I sit cross-legged on the edge, sipping wine and scrolling through photos of my journey so far. Someone asks if I miss Ethan. Do I regret marrying him? Honestly, no. He taught me what kind of partner I don't want, and that's invaluable knowledge. As I watch the waves crash against the shore, I smile. This isn't just the end of a bad marriage, it's the beginning of a beautiful life.